So here I am on PureOS Linux, and I think that's kind of cool. I've configured the taskbar, kind of looks like Windows. You know, try to get sort of the feeling of it does everything I want it to do, but now I'm not sold to Microsoft, so that seems pretty neat. So this right here is my code editor, so I should be able to just run the code and see if I can play some Warsmash. I don't have Wine installed. I don't need Wine installed. Downloading the assets, of course, has to come from the official Warcraft 3 game. That's not a part of my code, but my code is this emulator that you can see I just made the loading bar sit at halfway, so I didn't have to program asynchronous loading. It just saves me time to do that. But I thought it was pretty cool that here on PureOS, the frame rate seemed pretty solid. Now it is true I'm screen recording right now, so that I think will lower it. So I tried to make a cool video about me playing this pull request that has a bunch of Warsmash changes that I didn't make that look really cool, and add stuff like JSON-based abilities. So we have abilities defined outside of the game code, so you could potentially edit those from within a map, you know, copy the default ones, then modify them, and all those sorts of things that seem like pretty cool to me and maybe are missing in Warcraft 3's map editor. But I noticed that when I tried to make a cool video of me playing this branch on a Linuxy open source PureOS machine, it seems like my audio recording didn't work very well because the sound balance wasn't great. The game sounds were really loud and my voice was really quiet, so I couldn't really record myself. So with that in mind, what if I run around a bit more here, have some fun, where maybe the sound balance is a little bit better. I thought it was really cool that the druid has like his druid abilities, and he has like Stormcrow form, and there's a lot of code that goes into something like Stormcrow form. You have to change all the unit stats and those sorts of things, and load the other unit type. And the only thing even remotely like that had been in Warsmash was upgrading. You know, like when I upgrade and upgrade my Tree of Life and the Tree of Ages. And so that code was there, but in this pull request, this contributor has made some really cool stuff, like the ability to do that. So I thought that was neat. There's also Fog of War on the mini-map, so I don't know if you can see. I was playing for a while. I did some scouting, you know, like with the Owl Scout over here. But there's a lot of unexplored map. And currently, with the Fog of War, the sort of masked areas or partially visible kind of thing is in there. So is not in there, excuse me. So because of that, the masked areas are solid black. You know, if you look out here where I haven't ever explored, I just can't see anything. And that, I think, is just sort of the logical result of the fact that I just did it that way, so they made the mini-map, I think, match what I had been doing in the world view in 3D. And at some point, you know, one of us is going to have to go in there in the settings and find in the W3I file, you know, the map declaration, the map settings, there's a flag that'll tell us whether you know, masked areas should be partially visible or not. And then on a melee map like this, you're actually, I think, usually allowed to scroll the map to the other side of the world and kind of see how that would have looked. But I was having a good time here trying to see, you know, how good is the frame rate on Linux when I'm screen recording and I'm running the recording software and I'm also running around, and it's been pretty good. It seems pretty fun. So we've got that. I've got sort of these auras. You know, auras like True Shot aura, or like some of the creeps had an aura. The aura abilities are interesting because they are another one of these things that's defined in JSON. You know, I don't think that they're a part of the source code directly. It's kind of these JSON-defined things that have behaviors external to the game, which also means that, you know, if we get like a Warsmash world editor or something, it's going to be a lot easier, I think, to modify that if you don't have to recompile the game. So that's just pretty cool. I think there's a bunch of really cool contributions in progress here. Now I just aggroed a Granite Golem, so that's fun. Dead. Okay. Hey, we got spell immunity now. That's another thing from this pull request. You know, immune to magic did not exist in my older Warsmash versions that just have my code on them. I think maybe Well, maybe I shouldn't say that. Maybe one of the versions had something approximating it, but I think I only put it in with the Mountain King, you know. So it's cool when you have these sort of contributors, you know, open source contributions to things. I think that's cool. You know, it's like, because all my code is on GitHub, somebody else can just upgrade Warsmash and add stuff, and then make this pull request. And now I've got Fog of War on the minimap and all this, you know. And meanwhile, I didn't have to do that. You know, I didn't have to program the Fog of War on the minimap. You know, this is all just coming from someone else's contributions. Similarly, you know, I didn't have to program the Fairy Fire, you know, and it's kind of neat. I should probably see if I can get maybe Ancient of Lore going on over here. Get some Nature's Blessing. So I guess this also points out there's an interesting blend of, you know, someone might have seen a video of me playing Night Elves on Warsmash, you know, like last year or something. And there were some times where I was getting close to where, you know, the Night Elf texture was playable. We have things like root and that sort of thing. That I think is probably still using the hard-coded root. Yeah, my hard-coded root says no, not extern, no such ability if you right-click while uprooting, because of some weird quirks in the engine and that sort of thing. But a lot of the Night Elf abilities that had existed in the past were these things I hard-coded, and that was also why, you know, you could really only play like the Demon Hunter. Like the other characters didn't even work because none of their abilities were available. But now we have these cool open source contributions from this pull request I'm testing. And that gives us the ability to try different things. Yeah, so he has Druid of the Claw. He's got Roar. If I do an upgrade, he's going to have Rejuvenation. I mean, how cool is that? Like, previously, I think upgrades were not even applied to abilities in Warsmash. I hadn't done that. But this pull request has got that stuff going on. I still need to fix my pathfinding. You can see his path is clear, he says, but it's really not, because the pathfinding search across the map ran him into a tree, and is still running him into a tree. Hey, there we go. Look at that. He figured it out. So I need to work on the pathfinding so it's a little bit smarter. But you can see after I did the upgrade, now he has Rejuvenation, so that's cool. And if I do the other upgrade, which requires Tree of Eternity, he'll be able to turn into a bear, which I think is also cool. Let me send a Dryad up here. Now it says I'll be revealed to my opponents unless I build a Tree of Life. So I imagine that's because I'm upgrading the Tree of Eternity. And the tech tree unlocking, in my tech tree unlocking code, there's some stuff I didn't do right in the base system. I should probably fix that. I was looking at this the other day, actually, where, you know, normally when your Tree of Life upgrades to Tree of Ages, on Warcraft's code, Tree of Life, I think, has a dependency equivalent field, and so it means that if a unit requires Tree of Life, it'll also check Tree of Ages. It won't only check Tree of Life, and that means that Tree of Ages is a valid replacement. So I guess there's two things going on. There's dependency equivalents, and I think units that upgrade into other units maybe implicitly populate the dependency equivalents or something like that. So anyway, that doesn't seem to be happening here, and it thinks I don't have a Tree of Life because I did some upgrades. So it says I'm going to be revealed to my opponents, even though we didn't really find the opponents yet. So that's kind of interesting. And you can see the pathfinding has some limits. So if I just shift click, I'm going to get a better pathfind that, you know, because I did it with my human eyeball, than if we let the algorithm run. So that's kind of on me. How cool is this? You know, he can use Roar. They all get Roar. I think the Demon Hunter is still not full health, so he'd probably rejuvenate. Now this is obviously a waste of rejuvenation, but you can see how, you know, he was at 550, now he's at 575. So I think that's really cool. You know, we have these contributions to Warsmash and this really cool pull request, and maybe I'll send some wisps over here. Try to get this gold mine. So you can see I did the fog of war stuff, even though most of these other cool changes I'm looking at are not made by me. You know, they're from this really awesome pull request that somebody made. But the change to hide units in fog of war was from me, and I sort of did it wrong. You can see that this gold mine, it's just hiding all units. And so in Blizzard's Warcraft 3, I think buildings stop playing their animations and then fade out, and then it's not actually showing you that building, it's showing you an image of it. So like if the building dies, it would keep showing it to you until you go back and see it again. So there's this kind of interesting mechanic in Warcraft 3 that we don't have running here. But still, I mean, you know, small price to pay for wanting to say that I'm going to run everything open source on a Linux system where all of the system fundamentals are also open source. So I'm just on this sort of completely open source hobbyist world, and yet here I am, you know, the code seems to work. Let's get Roar going here. Yeah. Oh. I guess Roar is benefiting my enemies. Seems like maybe a bug. But yeah, it's probably just targets allowed. I don't know. Maybe targets allowed for Roar is messed up. So, you know, something else I thought would be kind of fun. Can I use the mana burn? Yeah, look at that. We burned his mana. Oh, the autocast is working. So you can see we have this auto-casted fairy fire on the enemy troll. So immolation works, but permanent immolation does not. And I think that might be because, again, you know, I was talking about there's this really cool pull request that I'm playing with right here. The really cool pull request adds a bunch of these JSON-defined abilities. So we have abilities created outside of the engine of Warsmash. So they're sort of more modifiable like you would hope them to be. And I'm pretty sure immolation is not one of those. I think we're still using the immolation ability that I made for the Retera's dungeon video on YouTube when I was messing around a while back. So yet again, a lot of the bugs are coming from my stuff, which is kind of funny. Cool, so I got this health stone. I wonder if health stone actually increases his hit points regeneration rate. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I don't think so. He can eat the health stone for life, though, so half of its function works. And I don't have enough mana for rejuvenation. I mean, you know, it just almost seems like it was yesterday that I made a video playing the humans where the paladin in Warsmash had holy light. And I remember when I was making that video, I realized that there was no, well, you can see actually it's still not perfect in the way I did it. The detection of whether you are out of mana or not wasn't implemented. And it's, right now what's happening, the reason Rejuvenation's icon stayed blue when his mana went above 125 is that at the moment I'm populating the UI off of update calls, and it's not updating every single time that mana and life change. And I guess, you know, in the world editor we can make triggers that change at particular breakpoints in mana and life. And so I wonder if that's what the game does to be more performant. Like, partly my goal was to not reevaluate every icon on the UI every single frame, which I think is probably better for performance. But it means that you have this moment where Rejuvenation's icon was blue, but it was actually clickable. And it's not a functionality glitch. Like when when I'm playing it, it's fine. But it is kind of this bug in how that would display. Anyway, this pull request is really cool, and the pull request makes it I can do things like rejuvenation on this hippogriff rider. So I think that's neat. Now, if I had a way to get a whole lot of hero levels, I think it would be really cool to try to use Metamorphosis, but I didn't implement like really good cheat codes to make that happen right now. Alright. Got this Tome of Strength. So, item shops are another one I implemented that isn't totally working yet. Oh, I accidentally bought the scroll. I bet the scroll doesn't work. Okay, So item shops don't currently do the stock delays, which is kind of weird. So some of these things like periaptive vitality, circlet of nobility, those work, you know, and give you hero stats. Some of the others I think do not. So for example, like the scroll of protection didn't work. I wouldn't be surprised if potion of invisibility didn't work, you know. But staff of teleportation is fun because the mass teleport skill for the archmage works. Staff of teleportation also works because it's literally just the archmage mass teleport that only affects yourself. Which I thought was kind of interesting when I realized that. It's one of those things where, you know, you implement something in Warsmash and then something else just starts working when I hadn't even originally tried to be testing for that. I was trying to see earlier. I don't remember. Oh, I guess I can just make both of these. So Warsmash doesn't stop you at 3 heroes yet, which is another thing that's a little bit silly. Let me see if I can get some of these master trainings, unlock the really cool abilities. So I guess if I was really smart, because Warsmash doesn't put a time limit on some of these things, why don't I buy tons of Staff of Teleportation because there's no stock delay. Then I can teleport over here and start giving them away to the other heroes, which is kind of funny. So this is something you could not do in Warcraft 3. You'd have to wait for the stock delays, but I didn't implement that. Also, just for fun, we could see Mark of the Talon. So if this guy turns into a bird over here, you can see Mark of the Talon, and this unlocks. And so you'd see, you know, there's a little delay between when it was unlocked and when the icon lit up. But realistically, if you click off of him and click back, it would also update it because it's a visual thing. It's not a functionality thing. Cool. I'm curious. Okay, so we don't have Fan of Knives yet, but we do have Shadow Strike, which is one of these abilities defined in JSON. And I think similarly, Thorn's Aura is one of these things that, you know, sort of these JSON-defined abilities that I didn't program in, and yet there they are working. I think that's really cool. All right, I'm going to try to teleport our folks back over here. You can't target air units. That makes sense. Oh yeah, I guess that reminds me. Interesting thing. If my archer is running, can I... Do we see that I can target the archer while the archer is running and they freeze? So there's another Warsmash thing, is that right now when an archer freezes, the frozen archer keeps animating running and doesn't do a stand animation. I'm pretty sure Blizzard's kind of like a stun stand animation thing, maybe. So that's probably something I should fix, but seems to work.
My strength is yours. I'm awake.
Cool. So now I can play with all these hero skills. We still didn't find the enemy players yet, though, which is probably something we want to find.
I can taste their fear. We are poised to strike.
All right. Well, I'm gonna send this owl scout down south. Looks like we gotta beat this stuff up over here. Oh. So now he has bear form, which is another really cool upgrade. We have evasion. Evasion is another one of these things made in the JSON pull request that adds abilities. Galeria's Flute of Accuracy. So now we have True Shot Aura for these other units. Not sure where she was going there. Don't lose the bear.
I am the iron hand of justice. I am the iron hand of justice. They shall not escape. Let justice be served.
Hey, now we have
Iron hand of justice.
lifesteal, I think.
I
Okay, so 520.
know. Justice served.
Yeah, she's gaining 5 hit points every time she swings.
Have you reached
So lifesteal aura worked.
Iron
It's
hand
another
of justice.
JSON-based ability.
Understood. Justice shall be swift. I can
So
feel
that's
it.
cool. Yet another success for the cool pull request that I'm testing with over here.
We must act. Have you reached a verdict? Research finished. Let the hunt begin.